Before we start the show, let me thank you for clicking onto this video. If you'd like to see more videos like these, why not subscribe and hit the bell button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, on with the show.
One mark will be vehicle 6, comprised of warrior women.
Hi friends, I'm LJ Jarvis, and welcome back to This Jarvis Show.
Greetings everyone, welcome back to On Air with Jarvis, the podcast of all things Warhammer and general stuff I find of interest. Join us today is the barista herself, Luna Lumen. How's it going, ma'am?
Hi, I'm alright. How are you guys?
Well, I'm doing all good, my end, thank you. I actually picked up the Leagues of Votann Codex yesterday, so that was a pretty fun experience to read through yesterday, yeah?
Yeah, I heard they basically changed all the rules for that one about a week after it dropped.
Yeah, that they sort of did realize that, oh, maybe these guys are a bit too powerful, like how they might have done with the Necrons and Tau when they came out for the first time years ago.
Yeah, it seems to be a reoccurring issue with new factions, but it is what it is.
But hey, besides stuff like rules, I was very interested in their lore. It's like people were starting to think, oh, are these going to be dwarves or are they just going to be humans? What are the Votann going to be? But from my experience, reading through their lore, these are Warhammer dwarves. So it's like these are Warhammer dwarves put into 40k, and that's really awesome.
So are they coming in with the Book of Grudges and stuff like that?
They don't. So far, they don't mention that, but they do have some. But they do have something you would call, moments of grudges, something like that. Where if there's a particular faction or character that they have this huge grudge against, they will put all their resources, even if it's wasteful, into trying to eliminate that said person or force, even if there's nothing much to gain. It is like a personal dwarvish grudge that they want to settle,
Spiteful. I like it.
Yeah, that is dwarf-like, and I'm so glad that they're like that for 40k. Like, these are 40k dwarves, as I said earlier.
I've heard a lot of people call for them over the years. Those are the return of squats, so it's good to see them both back and once.
Yeah, and I made a video sharing my opinion about why I didn't think they would work, but I made a huge 180 degree turn on said opinion because, yeah, I was proven wrong, and I'm glad I was proven wrong because these are a really cool faction.
I'm glad so. The more choice that you get when getting into 40k, the better.
Exactly.
Space Marines are cool and all, but they get a little stuffy after a while.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Games Workshop has been improving on that. Like, they have been giving us, a lot more books, and they're definitely a lot more spotlight on other factions when compared to 8th edition. What am I doing?
Yeah, 8th edition, it was very... You'd get the big boxes and you'd have maybe a couple new Xenos models, and the rest of it would just be Space Marines. Push for Primaris, essentially rewriting their entire army.
Yeah, but I think they got all of it out in 8th edition, and in 9th edition they were like, okay, let's do this stuff for Necrons, this stuff for Tau, this stuff for Tyranids, and I'm really glad that they did stuff like that because there's been a lot of things in 9th edition that I just really loved.
The new Orc Boys kit is very fun to play with.
And definitely the new Avatar of Cain. That was such a reveal.
Yeah.
But of course, from the intro, there's a lot more about you than someone who, brews coffee at Starbucks. So for people who might not follow you on Twitter, who may be Luna?
I might be the closest thing you'll get to an avatar of Slaanesh. I paint your little small plastic war dollies. I get into stupid arguments on the internet and, draw the odd piece of porn for money every now and then.
Yeah. And I remember this little drama that happened on Twitter a little while ago, and it was, I don't know if I had something to do with it, but basically what happened was that there were some Puritans that were going off about, oh, if you make art, you shouldn't make art on or risque art on 40K stuff because that gives a bad impression on the hobby, or it's just random stuff like that. And I am curious as to your thoughts on that when that was going down.
I wasn't personally involved in that one. If I remember correctly, it was focused a lot more towards people like Ori or Drunken Remembrancer. But my personal take on it is it's the fucking internet. If it exists, there's gonna be porn. And if people use that as a way to get into the hobby or merge their interests with certain things, like Ori has done quite a lot with Gunpla and Warhammer into, sexy babes, you'll, more blood in the hobby, and I think that's better. Plus, you get people like Dark Eldar and Slanesh. Come on.
It's like, I don't know why they were giving me crap on that, because I do, joke tweets on that from time to time. And it's like, do you not see all these artists like doing all that kind of stuff, which is fine on them. And it's like good on them for doing stuff like that. And I follow a bunch of accounts who do this kind of art all the time. But it's like I was getting crap for that. It's like, how dare you, Jarvis? How dare you?
How dare you? There's a lot of people that just kind of see porn in general as taboo. Still, despite the fucking age and that we live in. And yeah, you don't want to push that to people that are too young. But 40K in general, you're really not wanting people below that age group to get into anyway. We got shit like the Daemonculaba. I doubt you're going to be reading that to 13-year-olds before they go to bed.
Yeah.
Although that is a really good book, but still. It's just...
And that's not the worst
It's rampant in a lot of fandoms.
Maybe I'm just a messed up person, but that's literally not the worst thing I've heard or seen in like any kind of...
No, not by a long shot. I'd heard bits and pieces about it for years, and how it was this big taboo bit of 40K lore, and it's the darkest shit you'll ever read, blah blah blah. And then I got a copy of was it Dark Sky Black Sun? That shit's so tame.
Or it's like, if you read Berserk, then nothing's bad afterwards.
God, fucking come on. The majority of us grew up with DeviantArt. I'm sure we've all seen a lot worse than that.
Yeah, it's like, like if you were to type down Berserk course, that's like, okay, yeah, maybe that's enough internet for the day. That's enough internet for the day.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Rest in peace, Mura. Your rape horse will live on.
Yeah. But it would be like pretty hot art to do art on the Daemonculaba, would it not?
Is that your next little commission you're gonna slide in? Once I get around to finishing the Votan.
Still waiting on that.
Still waiting on that. Yep, life has been very busy recently.
Maybe if I reach 1K subscribers, maybe then I'll do it as like one big celebration.
Maybe.
I don't know. Then someone go, oh yeah, I used to follow Jarvis until he started posting Daemonculaba art. I kind of fell out of it after that.
Well, I mean, if Major Kill can do it and get away with it, then why can't you?
I don't know. It's like apparently it's like it's okay if this person does it, but not okay when someone else does it. It's sometimes that case.
Yes, the Bitsheimer argument.
Oh yeah, and yeah, he was giving the most crap on that too when that was happening.
Wouldn't be surprised. Him, Pantmonger, a couple others that I probably shouldn't just be announcing these random names for people to go attack. But there is a certain group of people that just like to push things a little bit to the extreme.
It's like, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person who likes the idea of someone telling the others you can't do that. But it's like, well, this is my Twitter or my podcast, and I can do what I want.
Exactly.
But of course, with almost every person that I bring onto the show, I am curious as to your story on how you got into 40K. Like, what was your first 40K vodka shot?
40K. So there's a little bit of a long story of a couple of detours, but growing up from primary into high school, I didn't maintain a lot of friends from that big jump. And I ran into a couple other people who were a year above me and became friends with them. And so for a long time, we were good friends. And then they all left at the end of fourth year, and I started being friends with people of my own bloody age. I kind of lost contact with them for a bit. And then a year or so later, got back in contact with them and we started hanging out again just outside the school and, going to a few different places. And one night I remember sitting at my mate Devin's house and he essentially chucked this book at me at Mach 5, told me to pick a faction because we were going to start playing. And it was the old 7th edition Shadow War book, which it just came out at the time, I'm pretty sure, or just before it. So I just kind of skimmed through, saw these little robot ninjas with big red trench coats, and was like, I'll grab those. Went to a place in Edinburgh called Mox in the Hole, and just started playing there. And it was good fun.
Oh, that was very interesting. And
Skirmish game like Shadow War, I feel like, is a really good introduction to 40K in general.
And as I say with almost every podcast, my first exposure was actually through a video game, Space Marine.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. I still haven't got around to playing it, but it looks really good.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and it's actually aged really well, honestly. It's like wine. The longer it ages, it's the more better you play it, I think, if that makes sense.
Are you excited for Space Marine 2 then?
I am, but I'm really hoping it comes out on PS4 because I can't get the PS5 if I can't get the PS5. And even if I did, I don't think I would be using it much because I just don't play video games that much anymore.
Remember my mum won a PS5 in a radio contest not too long ago?
Did?
It was during the height of there being no PlayStation 5s or Xbox, not ones. What's the current Microsoft equivalent?
No
Scorpio
way.
or something. Yeah. Didn't sell it during the height of that because they wanted to play it. Played it maybe like half a dozen times, and now it just sits in the living room.
Well, that's actually really epic. That's such epic news, and yeah, that's like 1 million chances of that happening. But hey,
yeah, no, I didn't actually believe them. I wasn't living with them at the time. Recently, I've had to come back due to economical situations, but at the time, I just thought they were shitting me.
That's really epic, and you'll probably get a chance to play Space Marine 2 if you want to.
Yeah, I'm hoping it gets released on PC as well, but I haven't heard anything regarding that. I'm not a console scrub, as people refer to them.
Yeah, but the game that I would be playing that I thought I wouldn't be able to would be God of War Ragnarok. That's coming on PS4 as well.
Oh, yeah, I played God of War 4 about a couple of months ago as it came to PC. That's by far one of the best games I've played in the last while. I am excited for Ragnarok as well. I hope that it doesn't take too long to get re-released on PC.
Yeah.
And I'm trying my best to avoid spoilers as I went into 4 completely raw, and it was a really good experience that way. So despite being spent all the week, I've managed to avoid reading any of it.
No, that's funny. That's funny. Getting to raw. Holy shit.
Fucking Devin, the same guy who got me into 40K, found the leak for the 4 versus Kratos fight and has sent it to me about 6 times, and every time I've told him to go fuck off.
Yeah, as for myself, I played all the God of War games before God of War 4 and all that. Yeah,
I've never touched them before-wise, but I've heard they're good.
Oh, they're pretty good, and yeah, God of War 4 was a fun experience for me because it was a change of pace on how they did God of War games, because it's like thank you, we got something new, because I think it was God of War Ascension, which is a game that came out after God of War 3. I think they were just trying to keep the games going, but I don't know, that game didn't do it for me because it's not really anything new. But with God of War 4, that was a new experience, and I'm glad they did something like that. And with Ragnarok, I'm very excited for that because of how much I enjoyed God of War 4,
Yeah.
And
It had a really good gameplay cycle. Like every time you started to get bored of some new mechanic, they'd shove a new one in your face, and you'd be like, "Woo!"
Oh
wins."
yeah. What am I doing? Yeah, but the only spoiler that I willingly saw from God of War from Ragnarok is the Kratos versus Thor fight, in the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
And that only
like I said, I've managed to avoid watching it.
yeah, but that just got me more excited for the game, and that's something that's going to get me to pick it up.
Well, speaking of new games that are coming out, are you looking forward to Darktide?
Darktide. Oh, that game. So like I say, I don't really play video games that much anymore, but with the exception of, the occasional game here and there. And Darktide, if I'm correct, that's sort of like Deathwing and Vermintide, yeah?
Yeah, it's a horde shooter.
I don't really play those kind of games, really, so unfortunately, I don't think that game's really for me.
That's fair
But
enough.
are you excited for it?
Yeah, I played the absolute shit out of Vermintide and Vermintide 2. It's really good good set of friends. So I've been hyped for Darktide since it got announced like a year ago, 2 years ago. It was a while ago anyway. Been sitting on my bloody wish list since then.
Yeah, and it certainly looked fun. It's like you get to play as an Ogren.
The best class.
The best class. But of course, I think everyone online has heard about this news, and I want to hear your opinions on this, being that Games Workshop has killed off Yarrick, and I want to hear your thoughts on that and what it could mean for 40K going forward.
I heard little bits and rumors about it, and then recently watched Valrak's video on it, and yeah, I mean, he must be quite old by now.
If I'm correct, I think he's like 500 years old for a human.
Yeah, for a human, I think they were just kind of holding him off so that they can milk him a little bit, or that he had technically been dead for a while and they just didn't want to announce it. But I do think Valrak had a good point about him probably being killed off in a book that's coming out soon. And that's why he didn't explicitly say it in the Guard Codex, which could then lead to Gazgul getting his vengeance, which I think would be an interesting storyline for them to go down.
Yeah, and I think that's something that would make sense. It's like, I don't think people would be happy if, if in the Codex it just mentions he died and then nothing comes out of it after that. I think it would make sense that Games Workshop would release some kind of book in which that tells a story on how he died, either in battle or natural causes, because he's just that old. And
he old.
Yeah, he was probably on a wheelchair by this point. Like,
I think the only reason he was still alive is because the orcs believed he was unkillable.
Yeah, and I imagine this, if it was Angron that killed Yarrick, if that is what they're going for, I think it would be interesting that this actually gets Gazgul angry, saying that, "Oh, you just killed my arch nemesis. Now am I supposed to?" Yeah,
because I don't think Gaz would get angry necessarily that he died, more just that he wasn't the one to kill him.
Exactly.
Because Yarrick's a bit of a legend to the orcs, is he not?
Oh, he is. He's basically their equivalent to the devil, basically. He's a human that has an orc power claw, has an artificial eye that can shoot lasers that he decided to get implanted into him later on, saying that if the orcs believe this, I want to actually have it.
Yeah. Yarrick's laser eye. Maybe an interesting relic for the Guard Codex.
That would actually be interesting, yeah. And maybe this could be something they could carry off into a new character. Maybe someone to replace Yarrick yet he has one of his, the orc laser eye. That might be interesting.
Maybe.
So
Or
into
like, what's his face? The guy that led the Acadians. I forgot him, but his daughter came back to kind of take over his role.
exactly,
So something
exactly,
similar to that.
exactly, something like that. Maybe not
Even though she
necessarily.
looks like the lady from The Chase, but
I was going to say she looks like the lady from what's the movie's name? It's about a girl with psychic powers.
oh, Matilda.
Matilda, yes, Matilda. It looks like her. The teacher.
Just British dyke.
I was going to say German, but
German, that also works.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't do German for shit.
Hans get the Flaffenflaffe.
To speak German, you have to speak like a Cthulhu cultist.
I cannot speak German. My partner can speak a little bit of German, but personally, I can't.
Yeah, I don't speak Cthulhu, guys. I'm sorry.
Cthulhu. You do not speak poop and farting.
No. To speak Canadian, you have to speak like an obnoxious American. It's like, oh yeah, hey, I'm from Canada. I make fun. I make fun of my dad like that, saying when we were in England, saying that dad, you give off the impression as that guy from King of the Hill. The neighbor who goes into Hank's neighborhood and he's from Canada and he has this very thick accent.
Was he not the oh no, not the Asian. It's been a very long time since I last watched King of the Hill.
Oh no, not the guy. Not that guy you're thinking
name's
of.
not coming to mind, but I do know who you're talking about.
This is not Khan. This is the
Not Khan, no, sorry, the other guy.
Yeah, he was only in one episode, I believe. He moved into Canada as like a house swap thing.
Mm.
And he's like the obnoxious Canadian that eventually Hank just had enough of. It's like,
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of someone completely different. Yeah. But my train of thought's completely just vanished there.
yeah, but yeah.
That boy ain't right.
Yeah, but unfortunately we're not going to see a new Yarrick model, which is unfortunate, I think. But hey, something like that would have been eventually, or it is inevitable that he would eventually die because he is just that old. And I don't think there's really much Games Workshop could do to keep him immoral, like keep going.
Yeah. But then again, how old is like Marnius Calgore stuff? Surely Space Marines don't live forever. Dante is like an old geezer.
Dante is a very old Space Marine when compared to others, or how long Space Marines can live for. Like in my opinion, Space Marines live as long as turtles, or they're as long living as turtles. It's like there's this one tortoise. He's in Japan, and he was around during the age of Abraham Lincoln, and he's still alive today. Yeah, he's still alive today. It's that old.
Wow.
So that's my personal take on the whole idea of Space Marines is that they're as long living as turtles.
Mm.
But that leads me into this question eventually. Well, leads me into this topic point is that supposedly when 10th edition arrives, there's going to be the new star box for that edition would be between Blood Angels and Tyranids. So if that's happening, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as like a long-standing Blood Angels player and fangirl, can we please get an enemy that's not Tyranids? Like, every major battle recently has just been Tyranids, or boxes have been Tyranids, or Nids, and Nats. Just is. Come on, we're working more than just the Space Bug's rival enemy.
Well, they already did Necrons, so they couldn't really do Necrons again for 10th.
I mean, aren't the Necrons and Blood Angels kind of chill? Sanguinius and his sugar daddy, the Silent King.
Or partner. Just
or
a side
partner.
piece.
I'm surprised Necrons haven't really, not necessarily come to the aid of the Blood Angels on Val to get rid of these fucking Tyranids that never seem to vanish. but at least kind of gave them a little shove.
Yeah,
No
I read
biomass.
I read the book.
So
I read the book. Yeah.
that it's just it feels very stagnant that the Blood Angels are kind of just being left to the Tyranids edition after edition and not really getting anything new for it.
hmm
Like maybe some proper Primaris Death Guards rather than, or not Death Guards, sorry, Death Company, rather than just here's 5 Primaris Marines from the starter set and like 2 unique shoulder pads. Let's sell it for twice as much as a normal box of Marines.
Yeah, that's something that's something I was thinking about. Is that if they were to do something like this for 10th edition, like Blood Angels versus Tyranid Starbucks, like I am hoping that they give the Blood Angels proper upgrade sprues as they did with Black Templars, and
Mhm.
better exclusive models for them instead of just what is basically Ultramarines just given the Blood Angels paint job.
Yeah,
It's like
I think if this was the new box that they were doing, I think they would either bring out Primaris Sanguinary Guard or a new Special Blood Angels unit with new sculpts, and then I would probably see them getting new Termagant sculpts or Hermagant sculpts, as those things are kind of old. Kind of similar to the 9th edition box set where we got a couple of new unique units for Space Marines and the new Necron sculpts as well for Necron Warriors. Because, well, I was a bit sick of putting in those, Lego Star Wars lightsaber parts into all of the guns.
yeah, and yeah, like with how they gave the Necrons like a whole new makeover and all that. For something like Tyranids, this is something I mention in every podcast, and this is just my personal take on it, is that if we were to compare Tyranid models to, all the other Dead models at the time, like say Eldar Guardians or Scissors of Battle before they got the whole new model range, I don't think they've aged that much compared to all those other sets.
No, I don't think they've aged that well, or that badly either. But it would be nice to see a new take on them.
Which I can get behind.
They really do blend in nicely as a big horde, as there's not many different poses or that they have. But that's also a bit of a detriment to them, is that they all look a bit samey. But
Yeah,
maybe that's the thing they're going for.
that's something I can understand. And it also reminded me of this thing that happened not too long ago. So earlier this year, I believe, they gave the guardsmen, upgraded sprues for Cadians, like new heads, extra weapons. But then suddenly they also revealed, new Cadian sculpts. So new.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
That was a bit weird. And I was like, I don't mind that. But it's like, so what was the point on doing upgrade sprues then?
Because usually they have the stuff in development for years in advance, so surely when they released these Cadian upgrade sprues, they already knew that the sculpts were in development for the new ones. It's like a bit. I could understand it if they were upgrade sprues for a different regiment, like say Telarans or Valhallans. But for Cadians that were just about to get new sculpts in the same year anyway, it feels not money grabby, but maybe there's a lack of cohesion within James Workshop.
Yeah, maybe there was some miscommunication about when comes where or something like that.
Maybe.
But if they were to do something like, upgrade the Termagants or Hormagants, supposedly there's going to be new upgrade sprues for them. But would you want to see like new sculpts of them?
I'll be honest, I don't play Tyranids, so I've not actually had that many encounters with the Gaunt models, but
Like I have a
I think a
miniature.
full sculpt would be interesting.
Like for myself, I have a small collection of Tyranids at my end. So I mean, really, they all do look the same, but at the same time, it is very interesting to see this like enormous horde army. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind like if there's like new poses to the Hormagants, Termagants, stuff like that. I don't think anybody would mind that.
If I remember correctly, there's a bit of an issue with them that the two halves of the Termagant form a hole, and there's like a really nasty seam line. Although that might actually be for another model that I'm thinking of.
Sea line?
Like a seam line between the two halves of the Termagant, and it's kind of hard to get rid of.
Oh,
You need to fill.
I think I know what you're referencing to, but honestly, the one problem I have with the Termagants, they're the ones with the claws, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, they don't really stand up well.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos on that. People gluing coins to the bottom of the bases and such.
Yeah, because the model itself is sticking over the base a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So maybe sculpts that kind of fix that issue.
Mm-hmm. And to go back on Blood Angels, though, because I am curious about this, which I think would be interesting. So supposedly, also by 10th edition, we're going to be getting stuff like Primaire Space Marine Terminators. Now, in my opinion, if they were to do something like custom-made Blood Angel Primaris Terminators, giving them all the wings, the ornament type armor. Yeah, like ornament armor, sort of like what they did with the Black Templars with their exclusive unit sets. That I think that'd be something really cool. Like this would scream Blood Angels.
I think that'd be cool as well, and I think probably a natural progression from that would be hopefully a new Space Hulk set, because that's a bit of a white whale for people to try and collect. But
yeah,
I would very much like a new edition of Space Hulk, because I've been trying to get my hands on one for a while, but I don't want to, pump out ridiculous amount of money for it.
Yeah, Space Hulk is like one of those, iconic imagery for 4K, I believe. It's like one of those iconic scenes that's part of 4K's image. Blood Angel Terminators going through a Space Hulk, fighting off Harmagons, Gene Stealers. That is basically one of the imagery of 4K that I think makes us so famous, yeah?
Yeah. And I think if they were to bring out new sculpts for Blood Angels Primaris Terminators, it would be a bit silly not to make a new Space Hulk game. Oh, sorry, a bit of a hiccup there.
No problem.
But, yeah, I just... Give me more Space Hulk, GW, please. Or just new Blood Angels in general. But if they were making new Terminator models like Primaris Terminator, isn't that what the Aggressor armor already is? Or the Gravis armor, sorry?
That I was sort of thinking, and I did get some thought on that, like, well, are just Aggressors, new Primaris Terminators? But the thing is that it doesn't really work that way. It's like, Aggressors aren't wearing, tactical Dreadnought armor, because Dreadnought armor is different from heavy set Space Marine armor, which is basically what Aggressor armor is. It's basically just regular tactical armor, but built more heavily and to play certain roles, sort of like with Devastators.
Yeah,
that's my take on that. So if they were to do stuff like Primaris Terminators, they would be like these hulking Space Marines and armor,
Yeah, I could see them being in units of 3 rather than 5 as well. But yeah, it feels a bit weird pulling Terminators, which are kind of an iconic unit for Space Marines, and waiting. God, how long ago did Primaris release? 5, 6 years ago, and waiting that amount of time to finally get round to giving them a bit of a Primaris makeover.
They were too busy with lieutenants at the time.
Yeah. You could probably make an entire army of Primaris lieutenants at this point.
But hey, better late than never.
Yeah.
And
is the Primaris lieutenant Twitter account still going, actually?
I don't really know. I don't think I really follow it, and I think it was just a meme account that they made on that day, but I don't think they take it too seriously anymore.
No, I remember following it a couple years ago. But
like I followed it, yeah, but I just don't think Games Workshop puts that much attention to it anymore. That's my take.
Nah.
I don't know.
Don't really pay a lot of attention to much of the community nowadays, but it is what it is.
Till is relevant.
Hmm.
But the last thing about Blood Angels, and I'm curious about this one, is that do you think Dante should get a Primaris model?
Oh, to my knowledge, he already had. I think a new model would be nice for him, but maybe something along the lines of the Castigator that they got for Black Templars, where it's not necessarily Primaris, but not necessarily Firstborn either. And, it's that kind of middle ground where you can use it as either or, and it keeps both parties happy.
Okay, yeah, I can get that. It's like, in my personal take, I think he's just too old to become a Primaris model, and to be honest, I am kind of like, a bit tired of the whole idea, oh, this base marine died, but he was risen back up as a Primaris marine. It's like, that's
that got really old really quickly.
really old really quickly, and it's like, it did get old by the time of Calgar. He was the first one to do it, but it got old the first time they did.
Yeah, I can understand it with Calgar. And didn't they say something like it was really low chances of success to get a firstborn to Primaris?
But then all these big
we're
characters,
not going to do it. And then, of course, all the big characters get that upgrade because we got to sell more models, guys.
Yeah, because supposedly, well, I don't believe this. To certain few individuals online, supposedly to them, Warhammer's just models, and it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I already know the exact arguments you're pointing to with that one, but no, it's not. The lore is very important. The community itself is very important, even if Games Workshop likes to denounce that part every now and then. In my opinion, the models are probably the least important part of 40k. As long as you've got, a couple paper tokens that you can use to get your armies out on the field, that's all that really matters.
Honestly, it just sounds like really classes to say something like that, where it's like, oh, you like Warhammer? Where's your models? Show me your models. Show me your models. And it's like, no, I don't need to show you anything, bro.
Yeah, it's like people that say get into Star Wars for the books or the wider community of games and such like that, and then people that would go off at them like, oh, you didn't watch the movies? Bro, you're not a Star Wars fan. Whereas when you kind of look at it objectively, they're nearly two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a subsect of the hobby rather than the hobby itself. Not everybody has £200 a month to spend on little fucking plastic war dollies, like the rest of us.
It's like, if their opinion is that you have to spend $400 a month to be a Warhammer fan, it's like, no, that's just being stupid.
It is.
It's like, you also have to. It's like, some of us have a lot more important things to pay off for, guys. Come on.
Yeah, we're not like 40-year-old middle-class white men that live in their mom's basement, Well, maybe some of us are, but like I'm not. So.
And here's the thing: is it's not even coming off from that type of crowd as people, stereotype him on it. It's not even from that crowd. Like, I don't want to list her name, but it's like people who have like under profiles like, oh, I can't believe I'm using words like this. It's just weird for me and dated, but it's like, I'm so woke.
Yeah.
I'm woke big time. Not even a parody account. It's like they sincerely say it's that kind of stuff.
It's like people who say things like Chad or Chud unironically.
It's like, no one talks like that in real life.
You're completely missing the joke here, my student.
It's like, no one talks like that in real life either. It's like when I hear someone say in real life, like not even on internet, on live, oh yeah, I'm woke, man. It's like, why are you talking like that? No one talks like that in real life.
Yeah, and it's those same kind of people that are like, if you're not with us, then, well, you must be far-right extremists. Like, no, if anything, I'm far left. I kind of have to with certain situations, but it's very us and them outlook that they have.
Of course.
Yeah, but there's extremists on all sides. That's kind of why those extremists on one side exist. It's more just to keep the extremists on the other side in check. And the normal people of each side then see the extremists and portray the entire side as just the extremist rather than seeing the little bit of nuance.
Exactly, and this is like a huge turn from how this podcast is going, but I do want to give.
Yeah, I did not expect to start coming on about politics here.
But that's something I do with these shows, and I think that's why people like these kind of shows, because I don't have like a real direction on how I direct this kind of stuff. But I do want to say this though, just to get it out there, because now that you brought it up, is that when it comes to something like extremism or fundamentalism, they don't always have to be, or especially something like fundamentalism, it doesn't have to be, religious or political. It can also be social.
Yeah.
So someone can be a fundamentalist in social issues or political issues. It's not just something tied with religion. And this definitely goes for something like extremism,
Yeah, it kind of almost like a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
As start with one thing, and then that grows, and you kind of surround yourself with an echo chamber, and then it gets worse, and before you know it, you're the very people that you were saying were going way too far with things.
Yeah, then you repeat those same kind of like echo chambers to people who aren't part of the York chamber, and they see you as batshit crazy.
Exactly. That's why I don't really, I guess, hang around with one type of group when it comes to Twitter. Like, I shimmy in with the art group and the quote unquote woke group of people, as well as the Legion as well. Like, I don't really care. I'm not too bogged down by the politics of the hobby, if I'm being honest. Like, at the end of the day, it's a storyline about big buff, 8 foot tall genetic mutants fighting space bugs and metal skeletons, all while we paint little fucking plastic toys. Like, I do not have the time in my life to sit and argue with people on Twitter like, oh yeah, this faction's problematic because it doesn't have a woman in it, or this faction's problematic because it's only woman in it. It's so contrived, and when these people and activists, in quotes, pour all their time and energy into something so insignificant like Warhammer, instead of maybe the bigger issues at play, like, how women are treated in the Middle East, or how men and their mental issues are kind of just sidelined in a lot of the Western world. It's kind of just like you're doing more fault to yourself than good. You're just kind of making yourself look like idiots, which isn't going to garner you any support.
Yeah, and when it comes to like people who are politically obsessed, thinking, oh, this must, because I'm politically obsessed, everyone must be politically obsessed.
Exactly.
And even if it's based off like, I don't know, a game, because it's like, oh, Warhammer must be involved in this, and it's like, why? It's like, oh, well, because years ago. It's like, well, this is not years ago. If you know what I'm referencing to. And even when people try to, start up a drama about something like, oh, Warhammer this or this, it's like, at this point, I don't care, really. Like, I would maybe occasionally poke fun of it, but...
No, I do that as well if I get bored. If you ever do see me on an argument on Twitter, it's 9 times out of 10, I got bored and just wanted to poke fun at someone.
Exactly.
The other 1 time out of 10 is maybe I'm too tired to really see that I'm getting caught up in the bitching.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, even though I'm poking fun of it, I don't really take it that seriously anymore. It's like,
no, when I did start, I was not necessarily active in the political scene of 40k, but I was definitely a lot more putting time into it and looking at who's fucking over who and the whole political meta drama of everything going on. But nowadays it's just like, oh, So and so has made up false claims about someone else again. Cool. Here, have some Slanesh tits.
It's like this is the only time I bring this up because people are going to reference this. It's the whole spiky bits thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know one thing about what's really going on with that, and I'm not going to really look into it because I don't really care that much.
No,
It's like the
I
only
just
sorry, the only
Sorry.
thing I know about spiky bits is like, oh yeah, that guy from who I heard of years ago. But that's it.
Yeah, when I got into the hobby the first time, I saw Spiky Bits' articles and such, and at first I thought, oh, this will be a great news source. And then the more of his articles that I read, and the more, I guess, background information I looked up that he was referencing in these articles, I was like, wow, this guy's a bit of an idiot. And kind of just ignored him for the longest time. Honestly, I didn't even realize he was still around. I thought he got not necessarily ousted, but he gave up years ago. But apparently he's still here and making things up about people, which could be true and could not. Maybe this entire thing is a bit of a marketing stunt. I'm not here or there on it. I'm not going to take a stance on it because I don't care and I don't have the info.
It's like seeing it now. Maybe you could call him the Kotaku of Warhammer news, but
I'm not too sure who that is, if I'm being honest.
Kotaku is like a trash video game journalism website. But
Oh, right, okay.
But when I say trash, yeah, it is just all clickbait,
Yeah.
no info trash. It's like they made this one article years ago, which I referenced to in a video. When I was talking about the whole subject of how, in my opinion, 4K wasn't satire, but for Kotaku, they made an article saying that Games Workshop has to remind fans that the Imperium is the bad guy. Stuff like that.
I thought the whole point is that there wasn't a good guy or a bad guy.
Exactly. But as Kotaku, they don't actually know about the stuff they talk about, and it's just flashy titles, no substance.
Yeah, that seems to be 90% of the news on the internet nowadays, though.
It is.
I miss the old internet for some fucking reason.
What? Go back to 2004. Watch Smosh.
Oh, okay, we started man. The early 2010s, the late 2000s is probably the golden age.
Not 2004. I was only like
I would
6. I was only 6 at the time.
Yeah, I know. I would be a very little youngling at that fucking age. Probably wouldn't even know what a computer was. I mean, nowadays everyone has a bloody iPhone or tablet or whatever, but like, I still remember being in high school and that being really rare to see someone with a fucking phone. I remember my Nokia, 1330, the brick that everybody likes to reference.
Mhm.
Chucking that thing around the fucking classroom.
Yeah, cell phones were becoming a thing though by the time I was in high school, and flip phones I think at that time were dead already.
Probably. I mean, they died like pretty quick.
But anyways, I think this is a good time for me to ask you some questions that people have asked us, if that's fine.
Cool.
But honestly, I think it is just one question from a guy because I did already ask you one of the guy's questions about how you got into Warhammer, but this guy asked 3 questions. So question 1 being that, why are you horny all the time, Luna? Straightforward.
I'm really sorry to burst everyone's bubble here, but it's an act. When I first got into commission work, art and such, I quickly snowballed into an NSFW artist. It'd be one commission that I would get that was, a bit risque, and then more people would see that and come to me for that kind of content, and it would just kind of build up and build up. So before I knew it, I'm a horny artist. I gotta kind of keep up this act of being, kinky, horny, whatever, all the time on the internet, because people are a lot more inclined to come to someone like that with their art rather than say someone who is completely blank and just posts art or doesn't really talk about that in general. So about 90% of the loot shit you see on my Twitter or Discord posts or whatever, it's kind of fabricated.
I
Like I'm not a really that horny person.
and like for myself, people can if I think people will just fine calling me a cringe lord because I'm a space marine with a fedora and
I
of how
I feel like I might be completely wrong in this assumption, but it's more of an ironic thing with that, is it not? And you're more just kind of what's the word? Playing into the act.
it is. I want to call an act because the whole idea he wears a fedora. It is because of the meme where he's like a skeptic. I'm an online skeptic. I wear a fedora.
Ah, yes.
But I'm not sure if maybe that has become a thing too now, where it's like, you don't understand. You merely adopted the cringe. I am the cringe.
At the end of the day, don't kill the part of you that's cringe. Kill the part that cringes.
Poetic.
Poetic indeed.
But yeah, it's a thing where when people try to make fun of me online, it's like, oh, he's a space marine fedora. It's like, yeah, don't take it too seriously, bro.
Yeah, it is cringe. That's the point. You know,
It's like
if the door is cool, look, if Oxthorn can make it work, then you can make it work too.
it's like either I'm a skeptic or maybe I'm a detective.
You never know.
But
Although, what chapter is that Space Marine, or is it like a custom chapter?
oh, is actually a custom made chapter that I made years ago.
Oh,
So maybe I'll tell a quick little story here. Is that so when I got my very first army, of course, were Space Marines, and I picked up some random paints at a game store to try out Space Marines for the first time. And the paints I had at the time were Abaddon Black, some white, some bronze, and all there. So from that, I made my own custom chapter, which I later named the Mjolnir. Named after Thor.
like the
Thor's hammer, yeah.
Thor's hammer. Yeah. For some reason, my mind first went to Spartan 2 armor, but I was like, no, that's based off of something else.
And the whole idea is that they're actually a successor chapter of the Ultramarines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you would think Space Wolves, but I don't know. I eventually I started to grow really fond of Ultramarines. I really liked their lore.
They get a lot more hate than they deserve.
They really do, and I think a lot of it comes from outdated memes. It's like, guys, there's meme lore and there's actual lore. It's like, don't get your info off of Reddit or something like that. Read a book.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that go around with the 90% of their 40k knowledge being off of Grimdank.
Yeah, there was even this YouTube parody video where they're sort of making fun of it, where it's like a Chaos Space Marine gives an orc a log and it says, "Oh, it's a laser cannon," and it's like, "No, this is a log." No, if you just
I remember seeing that voiceover as well.
Yeah, if you just believe it's a laser cannon, it'll work, and the orc's like, "No, that's not how it works, bro."
If you'd given me a faulty laser cannon, told me it was real, maybe I could get a shot off the two before realizing.
Exactly. And it's like, be sure to check your sources and verify.
Yep.
Misinformation is a huge thing today.
Yeah, especially things that are going on with misinformation campaigns and the such.
But anyways, onwards and onwards with these questions, I think. When did you start drawing seriously?
Seriously? Actually, not necessarily a funny story, but there's a little bit of a tale. So I had doodled on and off for a good part of my childhood. Stickman, slightly better than Stickman, etc. And when I got into high school, the first 2 years of high school, usually you get an array of all the subjects, so that you can, when you go into third and fourth year, you can choose what you want to specialize in.
Mhm.
And at the end of second year, my art teacher at the time basically told me to give up and not take her class. Like, just don't do it anymore. And I'm a
Very,
spiteful little bugger.
very
So
encouraging.
I took
Very
that,
encouraging.
and I'm like, okay. And I didn't take it for third and fourth year. But in that third and fourth year, that's when I started, properly drawing. And then I went back in fifth year and got my higher in art, just as a fuck you to that teacher. Although I had a different teacher during that art higher, because we had two of them at the school, and he was an absolute lad. Loved him. He was a little bit insane, if I was to put a word on it.
Is he
But
like? Is he like that teacher from Whiplash?
he never wore socks or shoes. Just to give you a little taster of how fucking batshit crazy he was.
Ah.
He was just, he was a really good guy, and he was really encouraging to everyone. But I got my higher at the end of fifth year, left the sixth year. But during fifth and sixth year, I dated a girl who was also into art quite a lot, and it wasn't a nice relationship, and it had a very, very messy breakup, and that kind of tainted drawing for me for a very long time. And it was about 3 or so years before I started drawing again, which would have been back in late 2019, early 2020. And then from there, that's when I got into digital art, got a tablet, started on Twitter and such, and kind of got to where I am now.
Yeah, I honestly tried drawing for a very long time, but my art looks like something worse than Christian stuff. So, or maybe somewhat better than.
That's a very hard barrier to break, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one.
But I don't know. Also, I sort of realized that I don't really have patience to really sit down and draw, or how to improve myself in that sort of field. So even though I enjoyed it for a long time, I sort of like admitted that maybe I wasn't that into it as much as I thought I did, which is
At
fine.
the end of the day, it's not necessarily about skill, but if you enjoy doing it, then that should be reason enough to continue.
Which I
More
sort
of
of
my own
realized,
opinion.
which I agree
But
with.
but I know that the rise of social media and seeing everybody else's, a lot of people take to drawing and such. Like, oh, I'm so much worse than this other person. I should just give up.
Exactly.
And there's a tendency to compare yourself to everyone else.
Exactly, and this can be in any other field, but in the case of drawing,
model painting as well.
Exactly. But for me, at least, when it comes to drawing, I sort of admitted that I didn't really like drawing that much. Like, I don't sit down and practice it every day or whenever I feel like it. So that's something I sort of realized. I just didn't like drawing.
And that's fair enough. Not everyone does.
But fun and final question, I think. Will you become a Krieger?
Are you asking if I'm going to join the 40% or I'm not the first person to run out onto the battlefield and get myself shot in the Emperor's name. I'm more of a sit in a cozy command booth with a cup of tanner and kind of watch the battle from a window kind of person. So I guess that's a no.
Fair enough. And I think that's what most people would actually rather do.
Yeah.
But yeah, but with all that, I think we've reached the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to say before we call it in?
Korn is gay, join Slanesh.
Very base, very red-pilled.
Very, very, I guess it would be pink-pilled or purple-pilled.
Definitely.
No, it's been great. And a pretty enjoyable experience, so thanks for having me on.
And thank you so much for joining me today. And if any of you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification button, and I'll see you all next time with a brand new video. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.